in my not feeling alone, I hope that other people that read this play will also not feel perhaps as alone as we've all been, or mostly been made to feel over the course of the pandemic. And I certainly want people to know that they're not alone, however they may be feeling, especially with not only the pandemic, but what's been going on politically with the political climate and change in this country right now. I think that however you may be feeling, it's very important to know that you're not going out of your mind, you're not losing it. It's this stuff is happening and we should be talking about it.
Hello, my name is Bobby Masters, and I'm the literary manager at Stage Left. We are preparing for our next live event, the Spring Fling. It's a 10-minute play festival running May 27th through the 29th at North Center Town Square. For the next few weeks, I'll be meeting with a few playwrights writing for the festival. This afternoon, I'm speaking with Hannah Kfoury, the playwright of You Wanted Me to Write What I Know. So Hannah, I have so many questions about your play. What have you learned about yourself in this past year? Like, what do you know now about yourself that you didn't know a year ago?
I think I learned that I am a lot better at figuring things out on my own than I was before. And I think I'm a lot less afraid of things than I was before. And that's part of why writing this play was not nearly as difficult an undertaking as I initially thought it might be. I'm not as afraid to talk about things and to challenge myself, because what could possibly be more challenging mentally, certainly, and emotionally than what we've been through this past year.
Yeah, it's interesting because your play has two characters in separate worlds, and I was like, oh yeah, I can identify with that, because I feel like we have been removed from one another for so long, but they do speak to each other in a way that I think is very fascinating.
It's something that I it kind of the way my process for writing is odd. I had a lot of ideas, and I started writing all of them actually. And then one day I was just like out for a run and I was like, what if? What if? And it seemed like a really cool idea to mess with space and time a little bit, because I know it's kind of difficult to have people on stage the way that we're all used to from before the pandemic. So having them communicate with each other directly, but without ever occupying the same physical space at the exact same time, was a really cool idea to me. When an idea feels like it writes itself, that's how you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And I am not a writer myself, but I've been around playwriting in the periphery for such a long time in so many different aspects, and it's nice to hear like that click. Once it clicks, once it reaches you, and touches you, and you just kind of know. I think that's a special thing. Lena has a line in the play about identifying as white feminist, and she defines what that means for her, with the Taylor Swift things, which is very humorous. But also, she has this line in the play that really resonated with me, especially after all of the events that happened this summer, with the line, "I don't get to be quiet." And then there's this whole back and forth about what it means to be listening and responding in all of these different kind of climates. Can you talk about like what was going on with you, and why you think that this is important as a white feminist?
It's interesting that you bring up that line in particular, because I sent, when I wrote my first draft and I sent it to a few friends, just to get eyes on a script and have people tell me like what could be worked on. And one of the things I called out was that exact thing, because I had defined white feminism as what it initially meant to me, um, which was kind of people that listen to respond and don't necessarily listen to understand. And she said, that's not all it means. Like I love what you're doing. I love the idea, but think about how many things are encompassed in this, how many experiences are encompassed in this idea. And I said, that's such a good point. I really appreciate your feedback. I'm gonna work on that. What you can't do, if someone tells you what you're doing is upsetting me, you don't get to say, no, it's not. And I think that when you are born into a place of privilege, or you've been raised in a place of privilege, it's very easy to have tunnel vision. However well-intentioned, it's very easy to pick something and say, okay, I'm going to support this. And then when it happens to require a change in your life or way of thinking, that's when you encounter some resistance. So what I was really going for there, especially with the Taylor Swift line, and it's more meant to be a humorous thing, but there are a lot of people out there that right now that think supporting, the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, means posting a black square on Instagram. And that's the kind of thing I mean when I say like listening to respond, instead of like we know that things are happening in the community that are terrible for Black people, and we think that bringing awareness means doing something on social media and going on with our lives. And to an extent, it's true that no one is going to solve, inequality overnight. That's just not going to happen, and it does no one good to sit and beat yourself up about it. But it does require more constant, more consistent challenging your own socialization, challenging your own beliefs, and questioning your own beliefs and maybe what you've been led to believe for your entire life.
So I'm going to end it a little lighter, um, but let's talk about what inspires you.
I am, especially over the past year, I truly am inspired by the people that have been out doing this work for so long. People like Stacey Abrams, who has now had quite a bit of attention drawn to her. Um, but this is part of the reason I was very, very into closely following Elizabeth Warren during the primaries, because she was one of the few candidates that went out and based all of her policies on the work that people had been doing, on the social justice work that others had been doing. She went out and she sat down and she listened to understand. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing your show at the end of the month.
Thank you. Thank you so much.